Hi, Broc Glover here at Anaheim 2 for the Dunlop Motorcycle Tires Track Walk. And I've got a special guest as a co-host, Chad Reed, 8-time winner here at Anaheim. So some insights and the all-time leading Supercross main event, 265, I believe. That's crazy. Over how many years?
20 or so here. So
that's
yeah, it all, you know how it is. It all goes too fast. But
it does.
I'm excited. This is my first time on the floor since 2020.
Wow.
That was my retirement year, and then obviously, you know, COVID affected a couple of years of that, and so I kind of just been staying out California, and here we are. So got to bring my kids, and yeah, just excited to be back on the floor. And
yeah, I saw your wife Ellie yesterday.
Yeah.
Supercross Futures event and Triple Crown, our first Triple Crown of the year, and then we'll follow up with one in Arlington, right? And then we'll go.
It's funny, as a racer, I don't love Triple Crowns, but I think when as a family and as a spectator, there's nothing better than come and watching, you know, 3 main events of 6 if you're really interested in both classes. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're off the start right here, and you can see they put a lot of water on the track. We've had kind of a it's sometimes seasonably dry week here in California with low humidity. So yesterday, after the Futures did their sessions, they noticed the track was getting a little dry, and they did say they were going to put some water on it. But the start here is a very unique one. The whole track is quite unique. 182 feet before the first bend, but it's a continuous long start, and I believe they're putting the hole shot line way around the corner, and we'll see that when we get up to it. But the whole start technically is 370 feet long before you can get that hole shot award. So.
Yeah, and obviously where they've situated the start has, you know, the end goal is how much it's affected the rest of the racetrack. So I don't know that in all my years of coming here, I've seen a racetrack cross, you know, the racing track cross a starting line 4 times. So it's a lot, you know, that creates different lines, different ways of racing it, brings some speed into it. You know, and you intensify that. You think of the big picture of 3 main events. It's going to be intense. It's going to be fast. So it should be interesting for all of us.
I know I'm excited, honestly. Like you said, we have 2 classes here, so we have 6 main events plus a Supercross Futures with a lot of top riders in anticipation of Hayden Deegan coming out there and riding. You saw that. Casey Cochran was the only one able to match that 1-minute flat lap time that Hayden put down in practice yesterday. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So the fans are going to technically get 7 main events here tonight. So it's really, really nice.
You know, which we're in that category, right?
We
love
are.
this sport.
Super fans.
You're about to. We were talking about it yesterday. I think your first time here was in the 70s. I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah.
And here I am thinking that I've been around a long time. So you always hang out with people that have been around longer. You make you feel younger. But I just generally love hanging around people like yourself, Broc, because we love the sport. We keep coming back. It's the main reason why I'm here, is helping out Futures. I was here yesterday with yourself and just doing that, you know. And we're being around these kids. You've seen them at young ages. Dunlop's been such a big part of their program. And so, yeah, like you said, a lot of hype around Hayden, and I think for good reason. I think he's the real deal. I'm excited to see tonight's main event, but maybe more excited for what's to come next weekend.
Yeah, it is fantastic. And you talked about this track, very busy. So we cross it once right here on the start. Obviously, just do it the one time. The starting gate is up against a different spot. We saw a split start the last time we were here at Anaheim a few weeks back. But this start here is actually in the outfield, kind of right center outfield of a baseball stadium, for those of you who know the Angel layout. And we're heading right into the first corner, big, wide, sweeping, flat left-hand corner here. So a lot of room, Chad. I mean, it gives time for the riders to separate a little bit here before we do another complete 180 here and head right back across the start underneath what will be the finish line jump, but also quite a big double crossed here, right? This section here. So this gap right here is measuring nearly 100 feet. That's one of the largest gaps that I've seen in Supercross. So we'll see what happens here if they take it out. I mean, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, and let me tell you, like, for somebody that's on the floor for the first time in 2023, it was really crazy that, like, watching everyone from Futures to the pros on practice yesterday, this particular finish line, it's a big finish line. Nobody, I did not see anybody, and I can tell you that's a rare thing. Nobody did this thing the first lap. And so I think that tells you that there's something about it that's different. It's large. I believe that the original track map had it coming out of the turn, and it was actually too big. It was almost into the 90-foot range. So now I believe I heard that it's like 69, 70 something feet, so which is really big.
Yeah, you don't hear about finish lines being close to 100 feet, so that's for certain. So another rider right here that probably wouldn't mind grabbing a first place again for making a triple crown of yourself, Eli. Amazing start, new Yamaha. Everybody's, in preseason, Eli's going to have to get used to the bike a little bit, but you came out and did what everybody was, a lot of fans were hoping you'd do, no question, win. And I know you were wanting to get that first opening round win. So tell us about your season so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone the best way that you could dream of, right? And that's to open up with those first 2 round wins there. The new bike's always a big question. When you first get on the thing, it's like you always love them at first, but a lot of things pop up. And we did a lot of work on it. And honestly, I was changing my bike the Wednesday before Anaheim won, but it ended up working out. And we're off to the right start. We've got a good base now, and it worked at round 1 with that crazy rutted track, and then it worked last week at San Diego. So I'm liking what we got going on right now.
How's your feeling Triple Crown? Favorite? Not favorite? What do you like about racing 3 main events like this?
What's funny is I get good results in them, but I'm not a big fan of them.
Okay.
I'm with Eli.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'm with Eli.
I think because there's 3 of those, it's just so much. There's so much going on with them,
Yep. I'm with you completely. I mean, I'm old school, obviously, but in 1985, they tried a 2-moto format for the entire season. Not a big fan of it. It was short-lived, 1 season, done. Yeah. And I understand, but the fans definitely love it. You can see the top guys, and they want to see them every time. And but it is, well, good luck, and I know you'll do your best. And you get 3 motos to try to get the overall. So
finally, we're not tied. Good job.
Exactly. All right. Well, these guys battling for records and things. So, all right. Well, that's great to hear, Eli. I mean, again, we talk about the Triple Crown. It's the love-hate, no question about it in the sport. But
I think it's the real thing that, like, as racers, I agree with him 100%.
Yep.
We put it all on the line week in, week out. And sometimes it's not even that you personally think about, like, oh, you want to limit it. It just sometimes it's like, okay, we're racing 3 races for a total of the same amount of points.
And the same amount of money and a lot more risk.
And so sometimes you think, okay, well, if we're going to race 3 races, I'd probably love the fact, like, let's get real points for all 3 races. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It was interesting. Eli was going backwards on the start.
We should have maybe told him that
that's backwards, because it is a confusing track at first. So now we're finally officially in what I would consider the first corner. And it is tight. I mean, this is where the riders come, the mechanics in and out of the stadium tunnel here. We're in the right field corner. Flat corner, not a berm on the outside, so hopefully they'll be separated a little bit. This is actually where the first time the riders will come in, and this little backside of this 180 Rocky Mountain ATV MC bull corner here, this is the first time they'll be dropping into this thing. It's like riding a snowboard or something here. You're dropping into a bowl.
And I think that something that TV doesn't do it justice is like how tight this is. The first turn is really big. They do a great job of giving us all that room, but sometimes the problem is you give us all that room, we actually all get through safely. Now you want us to funnel in, and if you pan back here, if you get pushed wide here, you are going to pay a huge price of going on the outside of these tents. What do you call them, nets? And then you're going to be on the on the outer side of the racetrack.
Right here. Like, this is the last place you want to be if you're going for a championship.
And then you're just going to give up. You're going to be last and 10 seconds behind. And I think that the interesting thing is we talked about this yesterday while kind of walking off the racetrack, is the majority of the people, they're going to want to give themselves enough room to continue on this race line. The race line that we saw yesterday is come out of this 180-degree berm and go all the way over the table. I don't know if that's going to be possible while trying to protect the inside. So this is going to be quite an interesting one. I think you're going to see some interesting things happen. And again, comes back to the Triple Crown. Not only are we going to see that in a heat race or a main event, you're going to see that 3 times. Everybody going for it. The intensity is going to be up.
Yeah, this corner clearly is designed to be a 180. The next obstacle is a 180 with speed, jump up onto the table or maybe over the table. But you're coming in on the first corner at a complete 90 degree, not 180. So the obstacle really isn't designed for this first corner. So it's going to be, you're going to see a lot of block passing, maybe people diving right down into that Dunlop leader tower there. It's going to get chaos here. I'm almost certain.
I'm with you. I think that you're going to see a lot of chaos in the main events, and I think that this could be, a game changer, good or bad for the weekend.
Yeah, this could ruin somebody's night, honestly. I mean, you could go 1-1 and then have a mess in here or something. It could really mess up a championship contender.
And sometimes it's the nature of the beast. You know, let's say you get that whole shot, you rip the whole shot, and you're like, oh, I got a little breathing room. Your natural instincts is, do you protect, or do you play offense and try to put yourself in a position to go outside and then get all the way over this table. And then now suddenly you see everybody, you've left a gap, everybody dives on the inside of you. You go from awesome hole shot to possibly 4th, 5th, or vice versa. You know, you play protective, somebody behind you jumps the jump, and now you're 4th, 5th because the field jumps down on you.
Yep, so we're coming off that single up here to a table. I mean, you're pretty certain you're going to be downside in this table, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, the way that this rhythm plays out more towards the end, everybody goes over this table, and then they go what we would call little to little, which is a triple, and then big to big, another triple, and then a 3-footer to a 3-footer at the end there. So essentially over the table, triple, triple, triple.
So what Chad's talking about, and we touch on this usually each track walk, but he talks little to little as the smaller jump, higher jump, smaller jump. So because you're really trying to stay low here, especially on the 450s, you got all the power in the world to get this jump. You don't want to be hitting the real tall ones, because then you spend time in the air, losing time, and the other rider, that's why the scrub was really incorporated in racing, to get back on the ground. This staying on the little keeps you down on the ground, moves you forward. So you go little here, skip the tall 4-footer, get back on the 3, and then go from there.
Yeah, so in real terms, in Moto Talk, what we talk about is this is a 3-footer. We're walking onto what they call a 5-footer. Yeah, do the math pretty easy. Small to small is the best and fastest way, and then that actually leaves you with what we call a 5-footer, and it's kind of like, in our early days it was a backwards ski. Now it's kind of changed and things like that. Actually, just thinking about it, it's kind of funny how all the what we call these jumps have changed so much.
Well, I laugh about it too, because a rhythm section in the early days, a lot of times the earliest design of whoops that we weren't even sure what they were supposed to be kind of were rhythm sections.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be whoops. We turned them into jumping 2 and 3 at a time, and then became a rhythm section. And now the terminology has moved around, but it's settled in the last decade or so. But like we said, we talk about going way back here. My first time racing here, honest to God, it was in 1975. They held a American Motocross Finals. It was a Triple Crown the very first time. Triple Crown meaning they rode 3 motos. It was a run what you brung, and riders rode 125, 250s, and 500 cc's. And Marty Smith, I remember, our defending champion, showed up on his factory Honda. And ironically enough, the mechanic, John Rosenstiel, everybody knows him as John R., was his mechanic back then, and that's who Legends and Heroes is honoring tonight.
That's
he was
awesome.
one of my mechanics for 3 of my championships.
John R's here tonight?
John R is here, and I know you
worked
worked with him.
I worked with John.
Yep, so maybe you could come down.
Absolutely.
I know Keith McCarty and a lot of the Yamaha crew are coming down. And he was a wonderful mechanic, and
showing off our colors that we
man,
represented.
absolutely, he was a brilliant mind on the
bike.
bike.
And I think that something that you should put out there, and I think that for people at home, the crazy thing for us is, this is our job, right? At the end of the day, this is all fun for Broc and I being retired guys, but at the end of the day, like, you come down here and you still think like a racer, and it's like, look how many people are here. You've got both classes, lights and 450. We have futures, and then tonight we have the KTM electric bike kids. And then you got moms, dads, mechanics, team managers, man friends, trainers, the whole lot. Don't get me started. And it just and so one thing I hate about grabbing Eli is for the most part darting to the most important parts of the racetrack. He did not ride yesterday, but I promise you he's seen the track, he's seen video. There's probably a couple of sections on this racetrack. My understanding is he's probably heading quick geezer at the whoops, but the back rhythm section probably is about the only rhythm section on this track that's kind of questionable, like what can we do? And so for me, that's my take on the racing side of it. I don't know if you agree, but so he could walk this and everything like that, but for the most part it's everything that you've already seen. Like that's what Supercross does so well, and Dirt Works is that this, yes, it changes a little bit from dirt shapes and, from mud, not mud, dry Anaheim to Houston next weekend, all these kinds of things, yes, but for the most part, these are genuinely, replicated week after week, and it's something that we are very familiar with.
No, there's no question about that. We talked about how they you know, the stock triple jump, 62 feet to 64 feet. The guys know it pretty well. They know what gearing is on their bike. They know exactly. So once the green flag goes for practice, they're hitting that triple almost first time every time. So it's good there. So
And
Dylan,
just,
we've got Dylan Ferrandis
Dylan
coming up
here.
here, and
It's funny, I haven't seen all these guys. So
how are you, Dylan?
It's funny, I see them all. What's up, guys? How you doing, man?
How you
Happy
coming
New Year.
along with the new
Hi, how are
450
you?
and getting
well,
your
thank
Supercross
you.
legs underneath you?
What do you mean Supercross underneath?
Well, I mean, meaning you're getting used to racing Supercross. I mean, you're such incredibly outdoor champion and all, and we're waiting for this big Supercross win from you. I think the fans are, and I know you're waiting too.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
So are you
More than
feeling
anyone.
more comfortable on the track?
Yeah. I think yes, the new chassis is very. It fits me more. Like I think the old chassis was like something a guy like Eli was like it a lot, and not me. And the new one is like just to me is like it's more flat, more stable, and it's something that I like better. I don't know, and just feels better obviously. And last weekend was not great for me, but we find some solution with the team, and looking for another chance this weekend.
I know a lot of your fans are, and ourselves, we want to see Chad, and I said we'd love to see you up there battling for the lead. You got 3 opportunities tonight. You like the Triple Crown format?
Yes and no. It's, for us, the racer, it's a few more chance to crash, you know.
Yeah.
Especially at the start.
And you hate to look at it like that. It's not, right? But it
But
is.
you have to also look at
I have a
it.
question, more of a racing aspect. Is you talk about how much you enjoy the bike over last year's bike. I believe I've heard comments that the engine and everything like that. What is it that you need to do with your comfort over saying that Eli likes last year's bike, or I'm not saying that, just in comfort-wise, his success and his starts? How do you get your starts improved? Because I think that that's really the issue, is more that where you're putting yourself off of lap 1 rather than...
Are better,
Yeah.
because the last 2 heat race I was out front. Also in the practice start I was really good. It's only in the main I just missed my two main start, and for sure, I need to get better at it. But it's not like last year. Every start was bad, like in heat race, in practice, every time. This year I really feel strong. I feel confident in start. It's just the main event, like if one guy just put 1 inch his handlebar in front and like it's dead. So I just need to make it work in the main event. But for sure a good start will help. But also, like last weekend, I think even a good start would have not helped me because I didn't have the pace. But for sure A1, I think I would have do better with a good start. But it's racing.
Cool.
All right.
Good luck, man.
Hey,
Good to
thank you
see
very much, Dylan, for doing that. And,
Yeah.
Hope Jacksonville area is treating you well down there, hanging in Florida. I know we found a nice French restaurant that you probably are visiting a lot. So good luck down there, and
man.
keep your going.
Good luck, Dylan.
Perfect. Yeah, I think a lot of the fans are certainly hoping for Dylan to get off the gate in a couple of those, if not all 3 of those main event starts. He does have the pace to be right up near the front like that. So
And I think for me, I think that it's race day, and you side towards the racer, right? And deciphering what he had to say, I think the biggest thing is the bike is great. I think his starts are better, but what I take from that is he's struggling on one aspect, and that's the main event. That's sometimes the trainer, the team can't help participate in, make that better. That's just between your ears, your head, and everything like that. So I think that once Dylan ticks all those boxes and he gets up to speed, the starts will magically start coming, I think. So I'm excited because I think he adds to the racing.
Absolutely,
he's aggressive.
He's
He's
fun guy to
fast.
watch.
He is.
Impressive
So I think
outdoors.
Yeah,
Incredible.
and he has a
outdoors.
Chadri tattoo, so I'm team Dylan. So.
All right. So, love to hear that. And one thing he mentioned, he loves the bike, loves the new Yamaha chassis, the new 23 model bike. And then Eli was the one we were all concerned about, and who's getting the whole shots and who's winning the main. So it's kind of flipped a little bit what I think a lot of people expected. But and as we're talking about back on the track here, we come off the high, land 180 right here into the Monster Bowl. So we're right at home plate right now. Any of those people that have those home plate seats are going to be a little bit blocked out at the base of this, but coming out of this corner right here.
I think this is going to be one part of the racetrack that you're going to see some from differential, I think. Like from what I seen yesterday, what I would call the racing line was double, triple, which then obviously you're tripling into the turn. It puts a lot of speed into the, that corner entry. So then you're making a 90-degree, turn at the end here, and then you're having to go the outside. Where if you triple in, you can set up for the inside on the next one, and so I think that that's going to be the difference today. Is again, I don't believe that this is a huge time difference. I just think it's how the track plays out. Does it get hard? Does the moisture start coming up and it's actually grippy and awesome? You know, if you pan out, like see here, it's all shaded. And this is probably a Dunlop question, and things that I relate to when I walk into this particular stadium is sun comes from this side, and it's all day long for the most part. Over there bakes and gets harder and dries up, where like over here for the majority of the day, right at that transition of like sunset, this particular lane will stay shaded, so it'll stay wet over here, stay nice and tacky, and then you get over here and you got a completely different racetrack. So makes it challenging from a rider standpoint.
Yeah, the Dirtworks crew obviously is well aware of this stadium, having done over 80 races here in the past. They do understand that the sun is low at this time of the year, south, which is that direction, over this right field section. It does stay shaded almost the entire day. Rarely do even some of the sections absolutely shaded the entire day from the stadium seats and the structure here. But they said, and they told me yesterday, that they're going to be having to water this outfield, left field area of the track where the sun has been beating on it all day long. So coming out of this corner right after that rhythm, Chad, 90 degree, and then this is a pretty darn big jump right here. You know, you got to watch the futures yesterday. What was happening on this section?
Yeah, this is, you can see the face is quite large, and so it kind of makes it a blind jump. But yeah, they're essentially going over the racetrack and then into quite a big one. It's got to be almost triple size, if not bigger.
Yeah.
But what makes it kind of cool to watch from a racing fan is that it's a triple size, but the landing is probably 2 feet shorter. So it gives a real kind of like that booter kicker feel to it. You can see them using a lot of body lingo, a lot of RPM on the light spikes and things like that. And that's just to help the transition of the motorcycle. So at home tonight when you're watching that, that's why they're doing that.
If you can get a view of this right here, you're going over the second section of the starting line that we interviewed with Eli Tomac right here, and then you jump all the way up. You can see you got Will Hahn standing up there. Looks like, is that Pierce Brown with his team? You know, it's a Red Bull Gas team there, the Troy Lee Designs.
Yeah.
And this was the one I was told measures right at 100.
This is 100.
Yeah,
this one over here.
Right
Interesting.
Yep, that's what my little notes here that I keep track. Yep, it's a 100-footer. Yep. So yeah, the track is actually 2,207 feet long. So about 200 feet longer than San Diego, but pretty similar to the very busy, 1 minute 101 lap times that we saw at A1. So I think the lap times again are somewhere in probably the high 50s. We did see Hayden Deegan and Casey Cochran did touch down on the 1 minute flat, high 1 minutes there.
Yeah, so you see those guys are into the 1 minute range. My prediction is that the let's call it our top pros of today. I'm gonna think that we get into those like high 56s, maybe into the 57s. Is my prediction, which is actually from a riding standpoint, that's a great lap time. You want to be in those mid to high 50s. It makes that 20 minutes plus 2 laps tick by a lot better.
Well, the one thing we have here too, a little longer track, again, lap times are a little higher, triple crown format. So the lapped rider situation that we saw in the previous couple of races, I don't think will be as severe because the races are a little shorter, a little more often. So I think it's going to be fantastic for racing. So you watched again yesterday here with the futures. What was the combo? What were they doing in this situation here?
So this situation, there really is no situation. Like you have to come out of the turn. You have to go double, which is essentially, and what you see here is this is a narrower part, which is what we call the second exit of the stadium out of the start, out of the first turn right here. But then this is the start straightaway, which is the biggest surface area that we have, and we put a jump at the nearest point and landing at the nearest point, which gives us, like Broc said, roughly around that 100-foot range.
Yeah.
That is a big jump for Supercross.
I'll walk over there, and I'm solid 6 feet tall, and you see how far it is. It looks, trust me, this gets your attention here as you're heading into that left field pole area.
Just for me, like what I give is, like Broc said, he's 6 foot tall. Landing ramps of triples, and we always look at the triple as a big or the biggest jump on the racetrack. That is a triple landing, if not bigger, but the takeoff is probably almost half the size You know, so that's what makes it quite interesting and gives it that kick feel, and from a riding standpoint, just gives it a very different, you know, feeling.
Yeah, it's a long haul here looking back. But they'll be doing it as they cross the first corner right here and come into this section right here. Immediate 180 here in this.
Now we're entering my favorite section.
Right here, left field. You like left-handers or right-handers when you raced?
Honestly, I don't have a favorite.
Didn't care?
Yeah, left, right, doesn't matter.
Gotcha.
You know, probably more, like I would say, like how the turn forms would be more of a preference over left or right.
Yep. Okay.
But I say that this is my favorite because we're entering what I think separates, you know, the good from the greats.
Yep.
These whoops in particular, my opinion is that we are aware that we have the futures tonight. I feel that they have, you know, 3 main events with the you know, Triple Crown, and because of that, a lot more track time, a lot more laps on the racetrack, and so they've, you know, these are a little more rounded. These whoops are quite easy, to be honest with you.
On the mic.
So they'll chew up and get difficult, but you don't want to start difficult and then have thousands or hundreds of laps on these things. With a couple hundred riders, and then suddenly nobody can go through them. So,
standing on top, Cameron McAdoo, Adam Cincerello. Cameron says these are super easy. So I said, okay, I got you on the mic on that one because he said, yeah, watch me tonight. So he's feeling good and confident. That's good to see. Pro Circuit team this week had a little bit of setback, a couple injuries, huh?
Seems like the last couple of weeks, you know, Mitch is hanging out with some black cats or something.
Yeah,
I don't know, because
man,
it just seems that
they're East Coast.
You've seen it over and over, right? Like these teams or organizations, let's call them. It seems like injuries breed injuries, unfortunately, and there's a reason for that, I think, in some ways. But it really sucks for Mitch. I talked to him yesterday; he was really down.
Yeah, Joe Shimoda is East Coast Championship contender out.
Like
a
I said,
collarbone.
Eli cares about 2 sections on this racetrack. We got whoops here, and then this rhythm section.
Yeah.
And I really think this rhythm section is probably the only thing that's gonna, you know, throw some thought. You know, like for the most part, like again, I don't want to say it's easy, but for the most part, these guys at the highest level of racing Supercross in the world, that is easy. Okay. You know.
So let's talk. You have always been known as one of the very, very best in the whoops. This particular set, dozer whoops, and looks like about the traditional 13, 14 feet from peak to peak here.
Yep.
What's your thoughts? They do have to run Supercross futures. They do have to separate. What's your thoughts on these whoops?
So my personal opinion is that we should always race dozer whoops.
Okay.
My opinion is that they should be 14 feet at least, and they should be dozer whoops. What that does is that allows, in my opinion, they're more rounded and they start out easier, and then they transition with the dirt or the, you know, whatever the conditions are going to be. I'm, as much as I love whoops and it was one of my strongest points, I was always a bigger fan of the track progressing rather than being on the dangerous and scary side on lap 2, 3, 4 of practice, you know.
Yes.
I think it only goes one way.
Yep.
You start hurting people, you start, you know, getting into a situation where we have to delay the event because nobody can go through them. I've been there so many different times, and so I prefer the whoops to start out like this and then allow the track to do its thing and the dirt to do its thing and the riders to then have to deal with the forthcoming changes.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The dozer whoops wear better throughout the night. Ultimate goal is to have the track at the optimal shape at main event time, not during the heat or the first practice particularly.
Yeah.
And I have to agree totally. It's a complete. The track is important to have in racing conditions. We don't want to see racers race the track. We want to see racers race each other. And I think you hit it on the.
So this particular section,
head.
you know, why I keep saying and commenting on Eli and the riders putting effort into this is, I think there's 2 different ways. You can go double, and then it's essentially like a triple, and then from a table, depending on, it's 3 jumps, but we call it a quad. Don't know why. But and so I think the line that these guys are going to progress to and try to do is triple onto this table with a knuckle. I don't know if we have a different name of it these days. What I would call is that you can see it's a tabletop with a knuckle on it. And yesterday I did not walk to here. I only stood on the top, and looking from here, and it's weird. Like your racing vibes start to come back pretty quick. But looking from here, I believe that the guys are going to triple on, and then they're going to triple onto the tabletop off, and then triple into the turn. And I believe that that's going to be the fastest race line. None of the futures did that yesterday, but I think that that's fair because they're rookies to Supercross, and I think that they were being smart.
So right here, Chad, yesterday in the futures, you said triple onto this, and then you've got your little kicker knuckle right here on top of this tabletop, and you're thinking options, what's going to happen with the top guys?
Yeah, and it's hard to say because it's one of those things that, like, visually some things surprise you, like you're like, oh, that looks easy, and then you get out there and it's hard. And on the opposite, you're like, oh, that looks really hard, and then suddenly you're on a dirt bike, and then everything just happens quite a lot differently. So I'm interested to see, when I personally look at this, like there's a lot of risk versus reward in this particular section. Tripling off of that onto this tabletop, there's a lot of speed, meaning forward momentum, to a very vertical face. You don't make that. It's not the case here that you have to worry about.
Yeah.
It's the ongoing, what the rest of it happens, and that's what they're afraid of. They're not afraid of casing this because Supercross bikes these days, they handle that stuff pretty good. It's what happens when you case
Here,
doing, the progress that happens after that. And because they have such speed and not a lot of height, I believe that will be what they're gun shy of. But I think that the first person that pulls that trigger, triple on, off to this, and then triple into here, I believe it's worth at least a half second. And in our terms, it's a lot.
So it makes a lot of sense why Eli had been walking over here looking at this thing, wants to land on that table. As Chad said, clear that next very vertical faced, 3-footer,
because
3.5-footer.
I believe it was Hayden, Daxton, and I think Casey, Casey Cochran.
Right.
They were doing double out of the turn, triple, and then they were going from the table to this one, which is what we call kind of that. It's 3 jumps, but it's a tabletop. Somehow we have learned to call a tabletop 2 jumps, maybe because it's a takeoff and a landing, but it's, so triple or quad, however you want to call it, and then double into this turn. So I think it's something interesting, actually, because watching the guys do that, they didn't go as high as I thought they would. And so it'll be just really that risk versus reward of tripling onto that table.
Speaking of right there, Chad mentioned Daxton. He's riding the futures on the right.
On the far right.
Right,
yep.
on the Paul Spin, young rider.
Levi and everything like
Yep.
that. And so, think about these kids, 17-year-old kids,
Yep.
Getting their first taste of Supercross at the highest level. And, for the most part, they have to make it normal. They hang out at the test track in Tallahassee, the Star Racing team, with their teammates and everything like that. So just the best thing that Dax can do is walk the track, do normal things, make it as, as easy and that transition as easy as possible.
Yep, we're going to walk around the face of that triple. Looked like it was plenty slippery enough, and in San Diego, boy, that was all I could do to save it. Trust me, it's get that clay in San Diego was slippery. So, as is this here. So, just a standard triple right here, leading into the outfield, center field area where you can see the podium there, where they're starting the riders meeting already. We land off this triple, and then into a tough sand section. In that sand section, the riders had so much speed. The hot line yesterday in the futures was an outside rail in that bowl and missing the rollers on the inside. So we can take a look at this.
So Broc says this is a normal triple. Let me tell you, for somebody that's the first time on the floor, this is not a normal triple. This landing is easily double normal.
Yep.
Typically there's a middle jump, and I think also, we talk about futures this week, and I think that they've changed that.
Yep.
And what we call this is Feld had leftover dirt, and the easiest place to put it is on the landing. And what I love, sorry to cut you off,
but they did a nice ramp here where the guys can actually build a lot of space.
And this, I talk about it being bigger and larger. Dirt is expensive, so we always try to minimize how much we use of it, right? This, from a riding standpoint, is so awesome to have big landings like this. But here's the thing, if you look at that, it looks really easy. But think of motocross, and you know, if you ride the sand normally, everything works pretty good, right? You might run a sand tire. Think of a bike that is set up to do nothing but ever go through the sand, you know? And so what you see is these guys, their bike wants to move around, and you see a lot of things like where they make it look difficult. You can see that it's a challenge for them. And it's just because the motorcycle is so stiff. It's made for landing on this, not going through that. And so it's just like yesterday, it was probably the biggest thing that I seen the future kids. They're all really talented kids. They're all really good in sand naturally. But you see them ride Supercross bikes in sand for the first time, and you could just see them like, what is going on, you know? And so it's that for me, as somebody that's been around the sport a long time, that was really fun to watch.
You know, speaking of fun to watch, and I was watching, we got Ryan Dungey right here behind us, and I saw him over there talking to Maximus Bolin there a little bit. I'm sure the KTM team, they're worried, but they're not worried right now with Max. I mean, a lot of talent came out early, looked like, hey, he's really stepped up his game in Supercross because he didn't focus on that much as a youth. And then he gets to the first couple of races, a few unforced errors, and now everybody's in a little bit of a panic mode, I think, with that, or at least it is from the outside. I don't know about inside the camp. So, but on the flip side, Ryan sitting with Cooper Webb got off to an amazing good start this year, and he looks like, again, the guy that seems to do every other year really strong. Well, this is his other year, the odd years, and so the 23 year looks like his year.
So I think that, you know, commenting on those two things is, like you said, Max didn't do a whole lot of Supercross. If you look at his dad's background, very much, you know, spent a lot of his career in Europe, naturally really good at motocross. And then you throw yourself into a KTM situation, well, that presents Alden Baker, you know, so I think that all that adds up for me, you know, and you don't race on any factory race team, I don't care who it is, but especially Roger and Ian and that particular, you know, brand. So not making main events is not ideal, you know, so I think that, is it a big deal? I think yes, that's not okay. Both times, heat race, he was well in position to make it to the main event. Heat race again, and all for his own mistakes, he didn't make it. So I think that, you know, that doesn't go well. I think that it was a rough week for him. Talking about Cooper, I think that what's interesting to me is I throw Cooper and Eli into the same group. You know, some of the things I hear on the inside is that this new Yamaha is really good. I heard that the chassis is a lot stiffer, and a lot of things that a stiffer chassis always works in ruts. First race we had a lot of ruts. Last weekend we had ruts. This weekend I think we might get a real understanding of like where some of these guys are. Cooper Webb, I look at him. As soon as I seen the A1, I was in Australia, and I was just like, oh, like I don't even know where Cooper's at, whether he's happy or not happy. Those conditions just allow Cooper to be at his best. He's smart.
You mentioned those conditions, though. He excels at tight tracks.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
He goes inside of the inside light a lot.
Yeah, and he's very clever at it. KTM is good at that, but I think Cooper is as good or better than the actual bike. So I'm interested to see, as a fan, how this weekend plays out. With maybe we're getting back to, we've kind of had two odd first races. Let's see what a normal race presents, and do we see the cream rising earlier than we are used to, or do we get back to like it's a real battle, you know? Because there's a lot of people, let's talk championship, like Chase Sexton has dug himself a hole, you know, and I think that you do, and again, it's not a big hole, but you got to go. I think that the progress from Supercross to motocross last year, I expected Chase to be Eli's, you know, thorn. And I think that everybody thought that, himself included, and it hasn't gone that way, you know. And so I think that for me as a fan, I'm interested to see 3 races tonight and see what the boys have got.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's we'll work our way down. Really, this is the most simplistic section of the track. After the sand, it is old school, flat out across into a right-hand 180, and comes right back flat out across 2 lanes of starting line, hits 2 little rollers just to check up speed a bit before going into almost a full 180 monster corner. And so we'll walk over here and start work our way towards the finish line.
And he starts yelling out because he hears his Jesus. He starts calling out. He's like, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. He starts yelling at him. People on Jesus' team.
So again,
you know, they have their picture
here, you can get a scan down, flat out in front of the mechanics area, right in front of the starting line, 180, right back, little rollers here, and then right into a really section. This is the final corner before the finish line. And rolling into this real wide corner, I think this is going to lend some good passing opportunities. I know it's pretty simple part of the racetrack for the rider, but the two sections, a little bit of a setup on the first straightaway and another setup on the other section to come out down the inside here. You'll see a lot of people guarding the inside in the LCQs towards the end of the race. And there's going to be, I think, some aggressive passing in these two corners.
As simple as this is, there's going to be a lot going on in this turn. You know, like if you back up just a little bit here, Broc, I think you agree, is it's not 100% straight. It does actually go left to right and back to the left.
Yeah.
And so when you're entering, you know, like if you think that this is the line where you protect, this is the line where you carry the momentum. And so you're going to have that differential tonight of guys playing on the safer side, and then the guys being able to go on the outside, get back to the inside, jump up, and then if you look, that also gives us, because the next turn is also a left, gives them the left-hand side inside turn on the 90 degree after the finish line. So I do believe that as simple as this is, it will create some, you know, under, over, crossing on the racetrack. So this will be a good section.
I like it. From the fans in the stands, they're going to be carrying a lot of speed, and speed looks good from up above. I mean, it's always when you're up in the fans and sitting in the bleachers, you're looking and you're saying, okay, these guys are going so slow in that section, why? And then you walk down on the track and you go, oh my God, I realize why now. But up here, this is going to show some speed of Supercross. And what I really like about this, Chad, maybe you can elaborate a little bit, but this jump right here, it's really just a single, because you're carrying all that speed you talked about.
Launch.
You have the ability on this jump coming up to the finish line to just launch all the way out onto the starting line. You don't have to worry about smoothly downsiding with another rhythm section behind it. You can launch halfway out on the starting line if you want, just to carry speed, especially if it's for the win or the last chance into, you know, your last qualifying position, the LCQ, whatever it may be. This is going to be important.
Absolutely. And you can see, like, I don't even know, I mean, camera unfortunately never does it justice, but like, this is wide open. On a 250, you're probably shifting to third. 450, you'd be lazy, right? Let's be honest, you've earned that right. So you hold second maybe they go to third, I'm not sure. But look at that thing. Like, that thing looks inverted, and it's probably the biggest finish line that some of these guys have ever encountered. It's, you know, it's at that 70, 75 feet, and it's just so steep. It's so blind. You don't want to go long. You don't want to go short, and you got all this speed where normally these guys, like, sometimes big jumps, you do a jump before it, and so you get a visual. These guys don't get an actual visual ever of the landing because this jump here is too far back and it's too small. And so all they're seeing is this big old face. And so you're relying on years and years, or little to no years to the rookie guys, on just that I did it. I got it in.
You got the
of just that kind of jump, you know. So it's
so if we can go a little bit lower on the camera, and this is what Chad's talking about, and it's something I do a few track walks with some VIPs here and there for Dunlop. And every time they say the same thing. They had no idea that these guys are hitting this jump and have no visual no reference in their landing, and they'll land within 2 or 3 feet of each other, the same spot, lap after lap after lap.
Inch perfect, literally, and that's what's impressive, right?
So impressive at Supercross. But again, if this were Pastrana was racing here, he'd try to pop a backflip, right?
And this is actually, he could totally backflip this thing for sure.
Absolutely, it is really true, almost vertical.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's like, I mean, think about it. All you see is stadium, and then and look at tonight. This is another thing. If you look right between there, it's the big old, all that is lights. You know, so when you're coming here, the finish line's lit up, and then you got lights, and what is this place called? 47,000, 45,000 people.
Sold out, I heard tonight.
I think 45-ish.
Yeah.
And that's all you see. And so think about these futures that we keep talking about. Promise you, the first time, I remember it like it was yesterday, San Diego Supercross 1999. I remember sitting on the starting line at Qualcomm, and there's a big old TV screen at the end of the stadium. And I remember like the camera, panning past, and then you're looking through the camera at the 30-second board, and above the 30-second board is a big old TV like this one here, and I see myself. And it hit me. I'm like, I'm at Supercross, you know, and I just think that that's cool, and I still get a kick out of it at 40 years old. 3 years retired, and I just those are the things that stick with me.
That's awesome. Your first Supercross was here at Anaheim, right?
No, actually San Diego,
San Diego,
1999.
okay.
It was supposed to be here. I was actually here in '99, but I had a sore thumb and I sat it out and I raced the next
All right.
weekend.
I know you mentioned you're telling me a story about pulling up here in a pickup truck with a Suzuki and telling Roger DeCoster that you wanted to be a Supercross champion.
Yeah.
I think he looked at you like, sure, kid.
Oh yeah.
Right? Go back to Australia.
Totally. Yeah. Well, back in those days, nobody from Australia came out of and was successful at this. Yeah, you had to be American or French, and I wasn't either at that point. And so, luckily I changed that.
Well, that was
you're welcome, Jet Hunter.
Jet Hunter too. So yeah, we'll walk around. We'll show where the track comes here. And I just noticed there it's hard to see now because it looks like got somebody talking to. But Pitt Beyer is over there, right?
Yeah.
He's the
No, I just actually noticed myself. Pitt was here.
That's pretty good. Director of racing, worldwide, global road race, motocross, everything.
Everything.
A
very large job
for KTM and the whole KTM group. Huge job, and somebody we raced with. I mean, did you race with Pitt? I know I did. No,
I have quite a story.
Okay.
I actually took his ride. I replaced him at Kawasaki in 2001, and then went on to get second in the World Championship. I don't know where Pitt went, but I beat him. So maybe that's why he didn't hire me. No, I'm joking. But Pitt's a good guy, and I envy that job. I think that'd be a fun job to do. Just globally going and doing the two-wheel racing in the world, and you get to control it and influence it, and I just think that would be fun.
So finish line, land, you mentioned it, blind here, come out right here for this left-hand corner, and this is something a little different than San Diego, where San Diego they gave us a little bit of a run, to give the riders a little bit of the run at the Dragon back. Here, yesterday, the hot line for the futures was tight inside. And I don't know, Chad, if you noticed, but this first Dragon back bump here, got a pretty deep rut right here. So it really didn't give you a good chance to get a lot of speed to skim over the top.
No, and like we think of gator backs, typically we enter them in a third gear, situation because you come directly straight on. This is very tight. I mean, if you look right here, this Yamaha, this is a new thing, but and I actually like it because the foot peg has less chance of getting caught on what we would call a normal tough block. So Supercross is progressing. I like it. But these guys are literally wanting to in and shorten up the racetrack because going to second or third gear and trying to rail around the outside and all the way up there, it's just a lot of racetrack you're adding for not a lot of gains. So they're going to try to shorten up the racetrack. Like Broc said, it's going to get a rut because it's going to be dominant here. They're going to go triple and then double off the top. Actually seeing Cooper Webb landing a little bit wider and actually still getting on top of the whoops, the gator back. So,
So
I stood right there yesterday, and that's when you can see the different techniques. I don't know if anybody follows me on Instagram, but I posted a couple of the young kids and how their technique is opposed to a Cooper Webb technique. And it's just, it's cool to see Supercross, done and achieved in so many different ways.
Yep, so right here at the top here, this is where we finally enter the first turn and the start there, and that's a complete lap. I mean, maybe a little longer than we normally have our walks, but I cannot believe how fortunate we were to listen to all Chad Reed's stories and his expertise. Nobody has started more Supercross races than this man right here. 20 years of experience, championships, 44 wins you mentioned, and just an incredible source of information. So Chad, thank you for doing our track walk, the Dunlop Motorcycle Tires track walk here at Anaheim 2, and we'll be back next week. Right before the track walk, the Riders track walk in Houston for the next round. So
appreciate it. And I think you said maybe 80-ish races here in Anaheim, and I think I've raced in legit maybe 50 of them. So
yeah, I think there's been 82 Supercrosses, 81 AMA officials. Again, we talked about the first one not being, and that was my first one. It was called the intermission race, like a futures race. It was a high school state championship for California, and I got lucky enough to win that thing. I think as a 15-year-old. So wow. I have a lot of warm feelings for this stadium, and I know you do too. So very good, and thank you, and we'll tune in next week.